one thing about working in the mortuary, I got familiar with all the churches in Las Vegas besides just the LDS church. The Protestant churches and the Catholic churches. I can probably say a rosary, and I know on a mass, there's one priest in particular that you could time usually you sit in the church, so you're there when it ends. This one guy was 29 minutes every time for a mass. And where I used to work in California, the owner of the mortuary would say, "Okay, let's go down to the coffee shop." We'd go down there and eat a sandwich or breakfast or something. And he'd say, "Okay, it's time to go back." And go back, and the guy'd just be winding up 29 minutes. There we go. The other thing he used to do with me down there was he used to take spoons and put them in my coat pockets. And as I'd go out the door, he'd say, "What's that jingling?" And I'd say, "What? And he'd say, "Look at this." And he'd take the spoons out right in front of the owner or something. Make me feel embarrassed. But that was his joke. Anyway, there's some people show a lot more emotion, and it's kind of a more natural. We're kind of reserved people, Europeans and stuff, but Hispanic people and black people in their services, they shout out hallelujah during it, and they'll get up and they'll say, "Oh, I see Reverend so-and-so's here, and come on up and say a few words," and that kind of stuff. Mormon funerals, normally you think they're about an hour, but I've been in some that are 2.5 hours, where they talk about everybody that ever lived in the family when they were born and stuff. And black funerals, it can either be 15 minutes or a half hour or several hours. But the one thing about Mormon funerals and about black funerals is after the funeral, they have a meal. They come back to the church and eat. Or they go back to the family's house and have a big meal. And we had one fellow, his name was Bob Duckett, and he was a black funeral director. And when we go to black funerals, I'd go with Berkeley Bunker, and we'd just do the funeral, do the graveside, and come back to the mortuary. Well, Bob somehow always got us invited to the meal afterwards. And they had some really good food, some barbecue stuff, and all kinds of different things. And I always liked to go to those black funerals with Bob because we always get to eat afterwards. Another thing that happens that they have their churches in different venues. This one church, I'm trying to think of the name of it, their chapel was in an old theater, and when you walk in, you rolled down to we're in front of this, and that's where they set the body up, and then they stand up on the stage and do the preaching, and there was a balcony. Anyway, after we got the funeral started, we went up to the balcony because it was pretty crowded, and the guy named Udell said, "Man, do you understand what these people are saying? They have such a strong Southern accent. I can't hardly understand what they're saying." And I said, "Yeah, I understand what they're saying." Okay, but they talk like this, and the minister get up and he says, in the Bible, Jesus got word that Martha's brother Lazarus was sick, and he couldn't go right there. And after a day or two, he come to see him to heal him, and Martha come running out to see him and says, "Lord, why weren't you here? If you'd have been here, you'd have healed him." And he died. But I know that in the resurrection he will rise again. And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life." We'll take care of that right now. And he went over to the tomb and he said, Lazarus, arise and come forth. He called him Lazarus because if he'd have just said, arise and come forth, that whole cemetery had been like plowed ground. So, and I just about fell off the chair laughing. And he said, what did he say? What did he say?